Well, hello there. I am so glad we get to hang out in this little corner of the online world. I'm Hanna Hermanson, certified coach, international speaker, author, and founder of Dream Life is Real Life. I've helped hundreds of coaches build, scale, and enjoy their online businesses, essentially make their dream life their real life. So welcome to the Dream Life is Real Life podcast. In these shows, you'll find the real people, concrete tactics, and weekly motivation and inspiration to make your dream life your real life. Look, I started this podcast to bring you the role models I never have. All right, are you guys ready for some vulnerability today? Look, we are going to dive into some real talk, all things diet, exercise, body acceptance, self-love. So if you've ever struggled with finding the right diet for yourself or shedding 10, 15, 20 pounds or knowing how to work out, what do you even do in the gym? Should I keep running? It's exhausting. I know. All the jargon out there about health and wellness can become all-consuming. And it's definitely something I've struggled with between eating disorders and over-exercising, under-exercising. So today I'm bringing my health coach and personal trainer over. His name is Griffin Burke. We are going to talk all things nutrition, fitness, and self-love.
What the fucking fuck? Dude, you've been hexed.
I'm your host, Hanna Hermanson, international speaker, certified success coach, brand strategist, and real person, committed to bringing you the information, conversations, and resources you need to make your dream life your real life. All right, and we're twinning, totally twinning. I think we could pass for siblings today.
Thank you so much for having me, Hanna.
Give us a little bit more background besides just making it, Happy Physiques. What is it that you do?
Yeah, totally. So, the Happy Physique thing is very much a personal brand to me because it really, what I do is I help people be happy with their body. And sometimes, and a lot of the time, it does require changes to their health, to their body, stuff like that. So my main focus in my program is helping people lose body fat without giving up things that they enjoy, without giving up booze, without giving up burgers, without doing too much cardio, without training too much or having to spend too much time on it. It's really about sustainability and flexibility by, one, breaking down all of the rules that we've created in the fitness industry that just aren't based on evidence or science. They're just arbitrary. You'd be surprised how many there are, and we'll definitely dig into that. And then really just helping people figure out what works for them, what will help them adhere to it, and really focusing on the psychology of nutrition and fitness and all the stuff that goes into that. So yeah, again, my name is Griffin Burke. If you Google me, you'd find some pretty interesting things, maybe some old websites or something like that around personal training. I get a lot of inquiries from people in Venice Beach just looking for a personal trainer because that's where I started. So I started personal training 7 or 8 years ago, and then got into so I dropped out of college, became a personal trainer, thought I knew stuff, didn't know shit, kind of accumulated certifications over time in strength and conditioning, in spinal stability and weightlifting, and was really into lifting. And then my mom raised me with good nutritional habits. She was a nutritionist for a time. So I just always thought nutrition's pretty intuitive for me. It's pretty easy. So I kind of just got into nutrition coaching alongside of that to just supplement my clients and stuff like that, because I think everybody needs nutrition coaching. Less people actually need someone to push them in the gym. I need to teach people about themselves and self-confidence and how to do things in a healthy way, which means getting rid of guilt and shame and making everything feel good, and massage their way into new behaviors and new habits that will serve them well. But when I realized I had these systems down or these lessons, I created a course online. And then now I just have a full process to get people from either really struggling to stick to things or just struggling to see results. They're busting their ass in the gym. They're doing lots of different things. They've tried different diets. Nothing seems to be working. I take them from that through a whole process that allows them to lose 15, 20 pounds of body fat in a way that works for them without giving up things that they enjoy, and get to this place where they're really happy with their body, which requires more than just a physical change.
But as you're talking, I'm like, this is why you're the answer to my prayers. Like, I didn't know all of your story and like, everything that you've kind of accumulated and brought together to have this Happy Physique program. But in full transparency, you guys, Griffin is my health coach, virtual trainer, and I'm in the Happy Physique program. Why we're working together is because I have a very colorful background. So I'm going to list off just like a bunch of stuff that I've experienced all through. So I've been everywhere from like anorexic, being monitored by a nurse weekly, to binge eating, feeling like totally out of control and gaining a bunch of weight, to exercising, orthorexia multiple times a day, running marathons, getting shin splints, breaking bones just from stress and impact. To then, okay, let's find some moderation, to go to yoga, but then Hanna becomes the yoga teacher, okay, which is not moderation. Right. But then that was part of the journey. And then I started dabbling in a bunch of fad diets. Maybe you call them that, maybe you don't, like keto, veganism, intermittent fasting. Like, I just feel like all of the things. And I was so exhausted earlier, a few months ago. And I, started talking to Griffin. We have some mutual friends, and it was like, I just feel hopeless. Like, I feel like I do all of these things. I bust my ass in my gym. I'd even hired a personal trainer. That was another thing I did. And I just wasn't seeing the results or feeling the way that I wanted to. And so it's really important. And I think what Griffin, you do so well and so differently is what you started to touch on, this like holistic model of like, it's not just like a calorie in, calorie out, work out this many times, do bench press. It's like this holistic piece of self-love, of psychology, of behavior change. And you've made the improvements to my health, my diet, my fitness so seamless. Like I told you the other day, I'm like, I don't think I'm working hard enough. This doesn't feel like change. It just feels like too easy for, to be seeing the results I'm seeing. So, and I think what Griffin, you do so well and so differently is what you started to touch on, this like holistic model of like, it's not just like a calorie in, calorie out, work out this many times, do bench press. It's like this holistic piece of self-love, of psychology, of behavior change. And you've made the improvements to my health, my diet, my fitness so seamless. Like I told you the other day, I'm like, I don't think I'm working hard enough. This doesn't feel like change. It just feels like too easy for, to be seeing the results I'm seeing. So all of that, just to kind of share where we're both coming from. And I think a lot of coaches, entrepreneurs, or just people who have a passion project and stress themselves out and burn the candle at both ends, need to realize that hitting your health and fitness goals are a full pie of a lot of the things that you're talking about, Griffin. And what I would love to go through with you and just kind of debunk are some of the myths that people like me are operating in and are keeping them frustrated, stuck, unhealthy, low energy. So let's talk first about, and one of the reasons why I was like, go on, when we first met was that you said, I, help people get fit without giving up what they love, like beer and burgers. How is that possible? How can you, make that claim?
And so the biggest myth is what people think are healthy is like just eating like perfect whole foods. Sometimes it's vegan, sometimes it's keto. All of these like scientific principles that these fad diets promote to be healthy. And it's just like healthy means like is basically all good, no bad. And bad is junk food. Bad is alcohol. Bad is inflammation. But people don't know what that means. And when it comes to changing the body, you can throw all of that stuff out the window. It's irrelevant. It's so fucking irrelevant. It's a joke. And I'll explain why. But when it comes to health and why people feel bad about the things they eat and stuff like that, it's because we've created these ideas of good and bad. Like these foods are bad because they hurt your body. These foods are good because they heal your body. But like that's irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Your body is a like organism that doesn't care about the judgments of other people. It's an operating system that doesn't care like the source of your food. It really doesn't. And I know that sounds bad, and sourcing for food matters for a lot of reasons, but it's not what affects health. So when you're educated in chemistry and biology, you understand like what is at the base level of these foods, what's in them, what's causing different things to like chemical reactions in the body.
Yeah.
And without getting into science, because that's a big,
boring.
It's
just boring.
What you realize is like, hey, there are calories, there are micronutrients, there are nutrients you need on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And there is actually, let's go back to calories again, like calories actually play, like in the studies, if you go look at meta-analysis of like what causes inflammation, what is linked, and the confounding variable, meaning the link between disease and food, calories play the biggest role. It's insane. And I'm not saying that as like, you need to be careful with calories, like they can kill you. Like you need to be worried about your weight. It's not like that. It's just chronic overconsumption of calories is what causes the vast majority of inflammatory issues.
Well, something I definitely learned was that, and this is in your program, like there's not good or bad. Like there's not good or bad food. There's not good or bad days. It's just what happened, and you can, make changes accordingly.
Yeah.
So that was.
And like, because at one point they said fat's bad, like low fat is good, carbs are bad, lower carbs are good, sugar's bad. We never know. Cholesterol's bad, so don't eat eggs. Like,
yeah, it's
because they're always a step behind because it's the government and they're slow, but also they're always looking at like what is they're trying to find the confounding variable, which means they're trying to find the link between all these people having diseases and what's similar between them. So a correlation. So when you look at studies done on large populations, it's called epidemiological studies. They're trying to figure out, like in a population of people with disease and without disease, what's the difference? What are they doing differently? But there's so many factors that you can't use those as to conclude anything ever. If you are, you're wrong. So what they found was like doing the testing. One of the best confounding variables between why cholesterol can cause an effect in some people, why like over-consuming cholesterol, or why over-consuming sugar, or why over-consuming fats could be bad in different situations. The confounding variable, the link, is calories. So what you see is that over-consuming calories causes an excess of inflammation in the body, and under-consuming calories, just cutting the calories a little bit, maybe even, and most studies show like in someone who's obese with chronic issues, just a decrease in like 10% of their body weight can kind of massively reduce their systemic inflammation and reduce the impact that their chronic disease issues are having on their body. So you can see that reversal. And what this means is when you know what's healthy, not like types of food, but like from a standpoint of like balanced nutrition and, where was I going with that? When you know it's healthy, like you realize that you can consume beer and burgers and these things, and your body can still do its job. So what did I say earlier was you're like a self-monitoring or whatever operating system or organism, like your body doesn't care about these things that are in food that you think are bad. Is that your body heals itself and does its job when it has what it needs. And what it needs is not organic. And I know that's going to like light some people up. What it needs is not like superfoods. It just needs whole foods that, that have everything that you need on a regular basis. And then to take it a step further, there's only so many calories that are required for us to take in, depending on your diet, in order to get everything you need nutrient-wise. So we're talking about vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. You can get more in with less calories. So if you only ate salads and proteins and healthy fats, you could probably get away with really under-eating calories and getting, if you're careful, everything you need from a nutrient standpoint. And then because you do need enough calories every day. You shouldn't be under eating all of the time. Then you'd have so the amount of calories you need to sustain your life is a certain amount based on your body size and activity. You're going to have this gap between where you got your nutrients, all the nutrients you could ever need, and your total daily energy expenditure, how many you need per day. And that gap is called your discretionary gap or your discretionary calorie budget, which means there's a certain amount of calories in your diet that's only role is to give you energy in the form of calories, just an energy measurement, which means as long as you're not allergic to what you're eating or causing some kind of problem in your body, it doesn't matter where those calories come from. It doesn't matter if they're processed. It doesn't matter if they're sugar. It doesn't matter if they're like chocolate. Okay. It doesn't matter if they're alcohol, unless they're a lot of alcohol, of course. Like you don't want to drink too much. There's a difference between consuming alcohol and binge drinking. But those calories can come in from anywhere, and you're still technically getting all of the nutrients you need and all of the calories you need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the awareness around the caloric budget is something that we all need to like go back to the basics on. And one of my big things is just like, I'm so confused. It feels like everyone out there is telling me like, don't eat meat, only eat meat and cheese, go keto. You have to fast, you have to run, don't do running. You know, it's just like all these conflicting notions, you know, whether they're coming from the government, like you said, or BuzzFeed or wherever you're getting your, you know, credible information. You know, I always used to wonder, like, how did my grandparents have like milkshakes and burgers and maintain their weight all the time? It's like, well, because that's what they had for dinner. They didn't also have pizza and granola bars and all day, you know? And so I think being flexible in where your food comes from and knowing that you just need enough. You don't need too much. You don't need too little. But I still think that that's a real challenge, even for me. It's like, you know, I can have whatever I want. I just have to be mindful, budget it, you know, kind of, it's not always about measuring or tracking though, is it?
Right. It's not always about measuring and tracking. So like what you just mentioned, like BuzzFeed, so the internet and various sources create all these like fad diets. So what a fad diet is essentially like a restrictive diet that makes you cut out a bunch of things to follow this plan or this category of food, whether that's vegan or paleo or keto or whatever it is. And what I call that is a product. So our problem is that we follow products, not principles. If you look at the principles, you notice why your grandparents were able to have milkshakes and like not have health problems or be obese. Because like one, they weren't over consuming calories. They weren't eating milkshakes at every meal, but also they were more active, which is a huge health component is activity level, exercise. Like that is, let's call that number one next to like getting the nutrients you need. So like those are products, and products, what they do is they create rigidity. So like I need to follow this plan that these people created, like even Whole30, great idea, too rigid because it makes people, and I've never followed Whole30. So I just use that as like a good example of a healthy diet, meaning it's just eat whole foods. Great cause. But if it's too rigid, meaning it's like, I don't understand the principles that they use to create this diet, therefore I feel like I need to stick to only what they tell me. It creates stress in the brain, despair, and lowers adherence. So that's the biggest issue. And if you can't stick to a healthy diet, is it healthy? No. So like one, yes, you have to be mindful forever. My theory around like junk food is what junk food is processed, hyper palatable food. Meaning it has salt and fat and sugar in it that makes your brain want more, which means you have to take extra responsibility around eating it because it's easier to overconsume. So it tells your brain to overconsume. Because it's everywhere and we've all tasted it, it's kind of something we have to deal with now, meaning we always have to be mindful. So one of the biggest movements right now, because diets have caused so much distress in our population, is like the anti-diet. Intuitive eating and stuff like that. And that's so important. And it's really a tool that everyone should learn to use, meaning eat intuitively, meaning be mindful when you eat, eat like whole foods mostly and follow your hunger. The problem with that is most intuitions suck. We don't have the knowledge to have a good intuition around food.
Right.
So by tracking food, by going through a process of learning about what you eat and what's in food and what you need and how much portions are right for you, meaning like you can't, it's okay. If you want to get fit, get lean, it's a different process. But like once you've calibrated yourself to just how much you should eat, like what strategies you used to fit your budget to this type of meal. So if you want In-N-Out burger, like it's not about like you always have to track it. It's like you'll notice through a period of tracking that you were able to eat In-N-Out burger with zero overage or not that it matters. Like you have plenty of flexibility. You can overeat one day, undereat another, and like not punish yourself and not worry about it. It will balance itself out, but you'll notice like, hey, eating In-N-Out burger didn't create a problem. It didn't throw me off. It was when I had In-N-Out burger for lunch and said, fuck it, had pizza for dinner. And then I had drunk burritos after the bars, after like consuming a bunch of cocktails. It's just like a clusterfuck of things. So balance really means like different for everyone, but like having In-N-Out, but also like having some whole foods and some salads that day or something like that. And everyone's balance is different.
All or nothing mindset. Like, oh, I had pizza and I'm screwed for the rest of the day. So I'm just going to go all out at the bar. And right. For me, you really helped me hit the reset button because I had gone from like totally under eating and over exercising to like just eating meat and cheese all day on keto. Yeah. And I think it's just so empowering to be able to hit that reset button, figure out, like you said, what can you allow for? What does feel good? What is like a day in your body, in your nutrition actually need to look like? And then just make informed decisions. And
exactly. Go back to your normal. Yeah. But that's the thing is what, I teach is like, this is not a diet. This is your diet, which is your perfect nutrition. This is just you and your body. And it's very unique to you. And what that means is like, once you've tracked and like gone through some process, you get to like know these things about yourself and what you need and be intuitive, but in a really good way because you've learned. You don't just get to jump in and like, I mean, you can actually, no, you can definitely learn to eat intuitively without tracking. But eating intuitively, meaning not tracking and just living your life, is the end goal every single time. Yes. If your program is not doing that, it's just like track your calories forever, that's a problem. There's certain circumstances where that's a good idea, but we won't go into those. But for most people, that's not good. And that's kind of where some of the fitness industry has failed, was like, it's kind of this all or nothing. It's like you do it like this or you don't do anything. The progression takes someone who's not happy with their body or wants to lose weight or just wants to be healthy, teach them about nutrition. Objectivity is so important. Like, I don't know. I think people look at tracking calories and they're like, obsession, eating disorder. And it's like, no, objectivity. The obsession, the eating disorder is a mental thing. And that is completely separate, but can affect anyone. So we have to take care of that. But at the same time, it's like tracking is the tool that creates the learning process. And then the end goal is to stop tracking. And here's the other thing. I want everyone to listen to this. Do not try to lose weight by eating healthy or intuitively. That's a big fucking no. Here's why. Your relationship with food and health depends on it. Because if you're always trying to eat healthy to lose weight, which is not what creates the change, sure, you might lose 5 pounds by switching up your diet randomly, but it needs specificity to continue. But if you start attaching weight loss, my weight, around food and your normal diet and healthy eating, then now you've attached the thing that's really supposed to be good for you and intuitive to a process that really needs attention and focus and phases of change and a lot of different things that are not health. So most people develop a bad relationship with food because they feel like their diet and weight loss is such a chaotic thing they can't control or ever have, yet they still want it so badly that they've attached all eating to it. And now their relationship with food is completely like connected to their weight. So what I say is like, if you need to lose weight, get specific and get the fuck out. Meaning like track your food, have a process, have a plan. Like, there's a lot of reasons why tracking won't give you results because you're doing it wrong. Like, have a plan, have some guidance if you need it. I would highly recommend getting guidance and make it happen in a scientific way so that you can also come out of the diet and like maintain your new weight loss and get back to eating healthy without thinking about your weight, just enjoying your life and your body. Like, that is a really important process. And there's another lie that comes up in the fitness industry, and that is like, it's not a lie. It's a misconception and kind of like a miscommunication of a good idea, which is what you eat to lose weight needs to be a permanent lifestyle, meaning you need to stick to the diet that helped you lose weight forever to maintain that weight loss. That is not true. And here's the problem that creates. A lot of people, the way that they lost weight is by chronically undereating and restricting foods. And then they think, well, I need to eat this way forever to keep the weight off, when that's actually going to hurt you for many reasons. But here's the other thing that creates distress, because a lot of it was around restriction and like not being able to eat certain things. So like that wasn't a great approach anyways. But physiologically, creating the fat loss required stress on your body. It was hard. You needed to make your body do something it doesn't want to do, which is give up precious fat energy stores. And then in order to maintain that weight loss without chronically undereating, you have to go through a process of repairing your metabolism afterwards, or recuperating your metabolic rate without regaining the weight. And unless you do that, you do have to stick to that previous diet. But it doesn't matter if you made your fat loss diet eating pizza every day, because you can. It's more a game of calories. It will be harder doing that because pizza is really not that satiating. But it doesn't matter if you do that and then you want to eat healthy, meaning what people think is like eating clean or whole foods all the time. If you want to make that your maintenance, like how you maintain your body, you can do that too. So you could lose weight on all pizza, then cut out pizza forever and maintain weight.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It has nothing to do with it. You need to lower calories, lose the weight intelligently, not too fast, not too slow, and maintain muscle mass, repair your metabolic rate. And whatever you decide to calibrate yourself to, like these are the things that I eat to maintain, is your new diet. Yeah. So no, you don't need to eat the same things forever. You just need to find a sustainable way to lose the weight and then do things that are intelligent to the body to maintain the weight.
Right. Right. So you've got to create a calorie deficit. You've got to eat within your budget, but that can include those fun things or things that you might have been restricting in other diets. You know, last night we had a date night, and so we were going to a burger and beer place, and I said to Griffin, like, I'm looking at this menu because you need to plan ahead. Like you said, have a plan, have a system, have someone guiding you. And I was like, I don't know why, but this lamb burger, it just kind of sounds good. I might want to try it tonight. So we ran through it. We kind of looked at, what that would mean for the rest of my day, for how many calories there would be. And it was like, okay, well, that's just not worth it right now. And so I had like chicken and a salad, and that was super satisfying. I could have a drink with it and like enjoy the rest of my day. And I love that I have this perspective that I have the freedom. I can eat whatever I want. I just have to be strategic about it. If it's, a splurge or something that, it would be more calories. And in the future, in the maintenance phase, have it. Move on. And that's one of the things I love that you say. It's like, okay, and move on. Like, that's what it was. And now we can move on.
Yeah.
So just to summarize, I'm hearing loud and clear, it doesn't matter what you eat. There are no good or bad foods. You just have to measure, moderate, do some tracking to kind of learn how much your body needs and move on.
Yeah. Well, let's not say it doesn't matter what you eat, because let's talk about the not the so much myth busting, but creating better habits. Like eating whole foods is really important
and satisfying too.
And satisfying, yeah. So like you're not going to feel good or do anything very well if you're constantly eating junk food that doesn't provide you with what you need. So even supplements, like if you so say you get all of your nutrients in technically, like you get all the protein and carbohydrates and fats and vitamins and minerals through supplements. Everything's processed and supplemental. this actually, for some reason, and I think this is why people get lost. It's like, there must be something like ethereal here. There must be something spiritual here. There must be something like holistic here that's happening. And it is. But what we found is that we do not absorb and utilize nutrients from processed foods or supplementation, as well as in their natural state. So a whole food like an apple, everything that's in an apple, if you just kind of like separated it out and consumed it, over time, you wouldn't be absorbing and utilizing the nutrients as well, technically, as you would with the apple. So real food, let's just say real food, whole foods, real food, unprocessed foods. But let's be honest, grinding, chopping, cooking, boiling, those are all processing that is really good for getting nutrients out. So when we say processed foods, we're typically talking about hyperpalatable, hyperprocessed, meaning they strip things out. They make flour out of wheat, then they add salt and sugar. Like everything's just kind of isolated and then put back together. So in order to get everything we need, we do need to eat mostly whole foods. Like we need to be consuming, like, one, it gives you the fiber that you actually do need. No one needs that much. It's not that hard to get fiber in if you eat real food. But you need like all the colors and antioxidants and micronutrients that help your body, the vitamins, the minerals, and those come in large amounts and trace amounts with whole foods. So if you eat mostly whole foods, lots of different colors, and just kind of eat a balanced diet from real food, you're going to get everything you need and not have to worry about like, where am I getting my B's? Where am I getting my C's? Where am I getting like all this like micro shit that doesn't really matter. It's just like, that's why they created the 80-20 rule. If anyone's ever heard about it, it's 80% whole foods, 20% whatever you want. Yeah. That's discretionary calories. Those percentages do change in different situations, but that's a really, really great place to start.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. Yeah. So yes. And it's like all of the cliches, but I think there is a lot of power in allowing yourself to eat in moderation. Like have what you want, enjoy it, and know like, yeah, you do need to have all the colors of the rainbow and real foods in your diet to be a healthy being.
Yeah. And like, when the first time like you give someone permission to eat whatever they want, it gets a little messy.
I was like, what do I do at the grocery store?
Can you eat all this?
Yeah, I was like messaging. I'm like, okay, so what do I buy at the grocery store? Because you get into these patterns of like, oh, we get the tofu because I'm vegan, or oh, we get the cheese sticks because I'm keto. And then when it was like, I have the whole grocery store today. Where do I start? What do I do?
And then sometimes that triggers like these binges because you're like, I can have these things now, and you do, and you can't stop, and you're like, oh fuck, like it's so good. But that's like putting those foods on the pedestal that they've always been on in this like, I can't have that mentality. And you do get jaded about those foods. You're like, I can have that whenever I want. It's never off limits. And eventually you just stop feeling like it's the most amazing thing in the world. You're like, there's so many things in life that are more wholesome and better, and I like more than that thing. And I still love that food, but I can have it and actually appreciate it and not feel bad about myself now.
Yeah, back to the like lamb burger realization. With date night, I was like, that's not really worth it to me. Like I would rather be able to have some French fries. And so I had budgeted, I'm going to have salad, and if I have some French fries, that'll be good. Okay, it'll fit. And I had 2 French fries, and I was like, I don't really need this. Like I could have it. And I think that freedom, like you said, it's not that I can't have it and it's bad. And then when I do, it's this floodgate of, stress and doubt and guilt. It was just like, okay, I had 3 French fries yesterday and I was totally good with it. And I enjoyed each one, and that was it. And I didn't come home and binge, and I didn't go run 10 miles today. It was all good.
Yay. That's amazing. So like, that's what people need to understand. What you did there was you did what serves you best. So you wanted to make a smart decision not to have this amazing, delicious thing that part of you wanted, but you made a higher decision to have something else that would serve you better, meaning you didn't use self-control to not have that lamb burger. You used like desire to have something smarter. Yeah. So this is something that everyone needs to understand is we do not operate well on self-control. We do not like fit pros, dude. Coaches are the worst at pushing this all or nothing discipline mentality. Like, I work so hard. I like all I do is try hard and work out hard. And that's what you got to do. You just got to want it. And it's like, that's like the only thing they say that's correct is you do have to want it. That's the thing is most people don't want to do the things that they do. And it's like, they think they're using discipline and self-control all the time. And it depends on how you define discipline, but they're not. They've accepted fitness and eating well as their identity. They've built a life around it. All they want to do is that. They go to the gym because they're hungry for it. They cut down and manipulate their body composition because they think it's going to give them everything they wanted. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not commenting on that. What I'm saying is they're so self-motivated and they have such a big, like, intense desire to do what they do that has nothing to do with self-control. They're not disciplined. They're basically operating from a level of identity, meaning this is who they are and they must do it at all times. And they love it. So if you want to like be really consistent, if you want to be really healthy, you have to love it. And that process does not involve feeling bad about what you eat, feeling bad about your body, feeling bad about anything, because the more negativity you put into the process, the less you want to be there or do those things. So it's all about your relationship with food, your relationship with the gym, working out. So we even go with that with the gym. It's like how to feel confident in the gym. Like, how should you be thinking? Like, should you be worrying about other people and what they're doing? One of my favorite things is giving people the confidence to like know what's right and wrong in the gym. So you can actually observe and realize, hey, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing in here. And it's okay to just like practice. And you know that like if you're going to feel good in the gym, feel confident in the gym, you have to realize that the people who are judging you based on if you're like trying a movement you don't know or don't look like you know what you're doing or looking really wobbly or stupid, like if someone's judging you, it's because they have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing because people who know that you're working on learning, that you're in a starting place and you're trying to be better. Like if someone, like the only thing you should ever judge is those people in the gym lifting heavy weight with their ego and look like they don't know how to move. Because it's like they skipped that learning process. They said, I didn't want to work with lightweight because that would be embarrassing. So I'm going to skip to the heavy stuff and not look and just like probably injure yourself 100% of the time.
I love it. Let's go there. Let's go to training, strength training specifically, because another pitfall I was in was being the cardio machine manic. So I would run long distances and do spin classes and was terrified of the weight room for some of the things that you mentioned. So how do you respond to that?
Oh yeah. So that's just another behavior thing. So what cardio is like, cardio is burning calories. When you look at how the body loses fat, what you're doing when you lose body fat is you're taking from an energy store because you don't have enough energy. And in order to sustain that process, because what happens, like you start to lose weight, start to lose body fat, your metabolism wants to adapt. Your body wants to adapt to whatever you're doing, meaning create a change to make whatever you're doing more comfortable to survive, right? So we call this homeostasis. Your body's like regular internal conditions must be maintained relatively closely or you die. So it's going to make changes wherever it needs to maintain homeostasis. We call this allostasis, which is like the change in homeostasis or like the adaptation.
Okay.
Forget all those words. Too much. But what that means is like to create fat loss, you must be expending more energy than you consume. To sustain fat loss at an acceptable rate, meaning like losing a pound a week or something. You don't want to lose too fast because you can easily lose muscle that way. And you don't want to lose too slow because you'll never see progress and it'll be like aggravating. So a pound a week is like that little middle ground where it's really perfectly healthy. And it's going to not push you outside of that stress zone where you're going to start to lose muscle mass. But in order to sustain that fat loss, and to actually look good when you lose the weight, you need muscle mass. And you need to maintain that muscle mass. And that requires resistance training, meaning enough stress on the individual muscles to keep them there. Whether you're doing like TRX or circuit training or bodybuilding or powerlifting, Like you're doing resistance training to keep the muscle. Cardio then becomes like, it's very obvious that what it's doing is burning calories. Where it got lost in translation is cardio shows a disproportionate towards fat burning, disproportionate ratio of where the calories come from towards fat, meaning you burn more fat as energy during cardio. Again, that's short-sighted to say that that helps you in some way lose body fat, because burning fat is not the same thing as losing fat. Burning fat means in order to operate this in this way, do this exercise, so running, let's say, we needed to start using fatty acids and oxidizing them, creating more energy over time to be able to sustain this exercise. So people think that means the body fat will be burnt. No, because the next time you eat, your body's first objective, and it's always this objective, is to restore what it lost. So give back to those fat stores. Same thing with resistance training. If you use muscle glycogen, sugars in the muscle, you burn the carbohydrates in your body to sustain the weightlifting session. First thing your body does to recover is replenish those stores.
Muscle.
Yeah, exactly. And that means training has very little to do with fat loss and everything to do with just burning calories or maintaining muscle mass. So like in our program, what we talk about, like training is for learning to move, getting stronger, progressing physically, and we don't focus on fat loss there because that creates just the wrong relationship with it. It's a frustrating relationship. So people's attachment to cardio because they think it burns body fat when it actually doesn't, because if it takes from body fat stores, the only reason that your body ever loses body fat is because it needed that energy to replenish glycogen stores or to sustain exercise, and it kept it off because it didn't have a way to put it back because you didn't eat enough that day.
Yeah.
So the calorie deficit comes back. And the problem with cardio is if you do too much, it actually can cause more muscle wasting. But you have to do a lot, and you have to not use resistance training. So resistance training should be always. Cardio can be sometimes, but it's just burning calories. So from a behavioral perspective, if you don't like cardio, don't do it.
That was a huge realization for me. You know, I would get a lot of steps because I would run for half an hour to an hour and then sit the rest of the day. And that doesn't do great things for your energy or your physique. So talk to us a little bit about NEAT.
What you just said kind of digs into that. One of the ways your metabolism is it adapts, meaning how much you expend changes, is through NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, meaning all the ways that you find to burn calories that aren't exercise. And what a lot of that is made up with is like fidgeting, checking your posture, doing things that because you have the energy to do them, moving your hands when you're talking. Like I'm just generating steps for no reason right now. And like what that does is like you subconsciously adjust that based on how much you eat. And what we found is like if you do a lot of cardio, your body will find ways to be lazy outside of it and reduce NEAT. If you do too much walking, there's only so much steps you can get in a day. And it does actually work very well because I've done it. You just use steps instead of cardio. So 0 cardio, got down to 6% body fat. But your body does adjust NEAT. So us counting steps is a way to kind of have some control over NEAT, meaning like activity outside of exercise throughout the day. So we can measure some sort of activity level. And it helps with to create a more accurate calorie deficit. Because if you're in a calorie deficit because you're counting a certain amount of calories and you're not losing weight, you're not in a calorie deficit by definition, right? You can't necessarily fully control it, but walking and counting your steps helps you have some control over your activity level. And yeah, just for the people who are worried about gaining weight, I think that's really important because it's like your body you can like overeat by a little bit constantly and your body will just adjust. You'll just burn more calories. And also, it's really a lot harder when you're overeating consistently and training a lot to actually gain weight. You'd be surprised. So that's another thing to prove to people who are worried about weight gain. Once everything's in balance, it's really hard to gain weight. And when you do, it's very slow and it's easy to correct. Great. So NEAT is awesome. It's just one of the biggest factors on why how your metabolism adapts, meaning why you need to make changes periodically.
Yeah.
If you are to see change.
Yeah, that was definitely a huge shift in my fitness mindset. Another one of the pitfalls I fell into was constantly doing different things at the gym. So I loved like group classes and working with I had a personal trainer, because every day I would go in and it would be fun and exciting and I'd learn something new and I would usually be sore afterwards. And that sort of like muscle confusion or surprising my muscles, I thought was really important. It was making me sore. It wasn't necessarily yielding me results. So break that down for us.
Muscle confusion is not a thing. You do not want to confuse your muscles. You want to lead them. You want to lead your body to adapt, meaning your body doesn't adapt to lots of different things at the same time. So if you're trying to build muscle or strength, like if you're doing all kinds of shit, changing your workouts every time you go to the gym or every week even, your body doesn't know what you're trying to tell it to adapt to. So one of the biggest detriments to training and building muscle and strength that people have, or seeing a change in general, is boredom. They want to see these changes, and therefore trainers are taught to change up the workouts all the time, constantly, to keep their clients entertained. And your body needs repetitive stressors of the same type and relative intensity in order to know what it's trying to adapt to. Meaning you need to do the same thing every week over and over again for a certain period of time for your body to see a change to that thing, right? And if you constantly change up what you're doing, it's called junk stress. Like you're just causing your body stress for no reason. It's not doing anything for you. And the reason why muscle confusion became a thing is because P90X, I think, was the one that coined that term. It's a gimmick to just make people excited about something new, to buy in, when really it doesn't do shit. But the reason why they came up with muscle confusion is because they tried to isolate this thing called novelty, essentially. This is my idea of why they did it. But novelty is just like a nuance, a new thing to your body. It's not a nuance. It's like novelty is when you go do and start a new program. It's something new for your body to experience, and it is only novel or new for a certain period of time, and then it becomes normal, right? And they tried to hijack that, give you novelty all the time to leverage novelty, but it turns out you can adapt. But you do need novelty. So that's the thing, is like you need variation. You need to change up your workouts every like 4 to 8 weeks, or at least every like 3 months, so that your body will continue to change. If you want to get really specific, probably 5 or 6 weeks is the longest you should be doing one block. And then when you change it, it can't be too different from what you were doing before. So you just need to make a couple little changes, change a couple little exercises. And when you follow the things that actually work, like, you know, doing a certain amount of weight and sets every week and progressing that, and then changing up some exercises here and there, you don't need to do that much.
Yeah.
You can just accumulate adaptation over time. That's what real athletes are doing.
Yeah.
It's not random.
Well, it was so interesting to have that paradigm shift, because in so many other aspects of my life, like as a coach or as an entrepreneur, it's like you have to track the same metrics. You can't compare apples to oranges. You can't do a sales call with one process and then the next day do a totally different one and think you're going to get the same result. Totally. However, that's what I was doing in the gym. I would show up and just like do random shit, whatever the teacher told me every single time. And I was getting no traction. I also couldn't go back and learn from anything. Like, you know, I asked you, I was like, well, should I keep my trainer? Should I go to this class? And you were like, we won't be able to measure your growth. We won't know what's actually happening. So I think that's a huge lesson that, you know, we know, but we're not applying to fitness.
Right. And every person who gets into like intelligent training systems for the first time ever, their response, I got a message this morning with the same responses. This doesn't feel like enough. Totally. And it's like, it's not enough, but it will be enough in like 4 weeks and you'll be feeling it. Trust me, because we're going to build. And over time, over like a year or two of doing that, that'll make tremendous amount of changes happen in your body. If you're really specific and really progressive, and each change you make, it builds on the last thing, you like, you know, that's how you get to a 300-pound deadlift. Like you don't just like deadlift random times and just like hope to get there one day. If you're a big dude, yeah, sure. But if you're someone your size, hey, Hanna, that's possible. You can lift 300 pounds if you want. But it would require a lot of like leading of the body.
Yeah, it's like the compound effect. You've got to build on your starting point.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so we've covered a lot on nutrition. We've covered a lot on fitness and training. We have got to talk about the elephant in the room. You mentioned it a little bit throughout, psychology, self-love. Like, I do feel like there are these basics, okay, you just follow a plan. This is a science. You can, manipulate your body in a lot of ways, but there's a missing piece for a lot of people. So talk to us about the self-love component of your program. And
yeah. So this is something that usually I think a lot of people are uncomfortable in their body and want to be happier with their body. They're not always comfortable with the idea of self-love, especially men. But lately, my passion really just let's say 4 out of 5 women that I've worked with have it, maybe 5 out of 5, but only 4 out of 5 have admitted that they've had a history with eating disorder or disordered eating. I'm not saying let's not just say all women have disordered eating patterns, but it's extra common with women for a lot of reasons with our society and everything and experience with dieting. It's really common. And one of the biggest problems, and this is where I get a little bit, you're very passionate, but I also start to cross a line, is my theory around eating disorders and where they come from and what people need in order to heal that, but also be happy with their body. I don't fit into any category when it comes to that. I feel like everybody's wrong by taking an extreme. If you create a change, you can lose all the weight you ever wanted. You could have the perfect body. If you're not able to see it, it doesn't matter. Meaning you have to learn how to be kind to yourself, how to love yourself, how to be happy with your body. That's a skill, because happiness is a standard that we set. It's something we decide. But a lot of things affect that psychologically, a lot of experience, a lot of, sometimes a little bit genetics, temperament, but also experience. We decide at some point during our lives, we program ourselves to think this is what makes us happy. And we have to have that or we can't be happy, right? And while the best way to learn to be happy is decide when I'm happy, things will happen. Cassie's. It's not when I have this, I'll be happy. It's when I'm happy, I can have this, meaning happy. It starts with you, right? But at the same time, in the real world, happiness is difficult. There's a lot of stressors. There's a lot of good things going on. And unless you know how to break down every little decision you made and go through lots of therapy, it's always going to be hard to be happy without change, because you set a standard for yourself, whether that's for your life or your body. And in order to be happy, you need to meet that standard or decide you've met that standard. So we have to work with that standard. We also have to learn to be happy. So with people with eating disorders, their problem is it's body dysmorphia, which I have actually struggled with my entire life until I realized a few things. And there's all kinds of things that play into that: comparison syndrome and judgment of oneself and bad habits, negativity bias, which means we are wired to focus on negative things more than positive things. There's so many things that need to be learned and weeded out. But the problem with eating disorders is I need my body to be a certain way in order to be happy, but I don't know how to be happy. This is me speaking as if I'm someone who knows that they're unhappy. But if I don't know or knows everything, I guess, or the whole map, not everything. I don't know everything, but I need to have this certain body to be happy, but I don't know how to be happy. So I'll never feel the feeling of happiness from having it. Therefore, I'm going to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig until I feel love.
Yeah.
But that's just not how it works. So you have to learn to love yourself, to feel that, to be happy, of course. But if you're never meeting your own standards, it's always going to feel really hard to constantly have to practice that. So we do have to create change in everything. Nobody actually sustains happiness without improvement. You need to acknowledge these standards you set for yourself. Break them down. See if they're actually realistic. A lot of the times they're not. Set new standards for yourself and learn to be happy. So meet yourself in the middle, right? Or the high middle or the low middle, whatever it is. But the answer is never avoid the scale, avoid nutrition, avoid your body, stop thinking about it, stop caring. That's not how we operate. We do care. And we're not going to just break that very easily. And the goal should be over time, you slowly stop caring so much.
Well, that was, I think, the pattern I was repeating. So detached from my body and just like focused on the head game of like numbers, inputs, outputs. And then when it was like, stop thinking about that, stop running. Literally, I was told like, stop running, stop counting, do what you want. Like, don't focus on this. Well, then that eventually swung into binge eating. And it was kind of like, well, this is part of it. It's that, again, it comes back to this like all or nothing mentality. But the missing piece for me, you're right. It can't just be like, don't think about it. It's self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And self-esteem is following through on the agreements that you've made to yourself.
Yep.
So I felt great about who I thought I was better than everyone, honestly, when I was like super underweight, because I stuck to every agreement I made with myself. I didn't eat crap. I was always at the gym. I got my steps in, whatever. And then, the swinging the other way is like, I didn't have any agreements for myself. I just thought I had to not think about it, be totally free. That didn't work either. And so making agreements with yourself, living up to them.
I've heard from too many women who've gone through eating disorder therapy and left with just kind of hanging. If you walked away from this therapy and you try not to obsess about food, but you're still really unhappy with your body. Like you just couldn't, this is what I keep hearing is like, yeah, well, I'm just really unhappy with my body. Like I'm uncomfortable. I've gained a lot of weight. They all say, I don't ever want to go back to that eating disorder. I don't ever want to feel like that again. I don't ever want to undereat again chronically. But I feel terrible. I'm overweight. No one can help me because I'm not allowed to track calories or weigh in. And I'm like, you've been hexed. You're broken. No one can help you. Fuck that. We need to learn how to use these things as tools, respect ourselves, respect the tools, and get where we want to go, and then go back to life.
100% that woman that wanted to avoid everything and was afraid of tracking because that equaled in my head. The only time I've really tracked consistently is when I was miserable and had no relationships and was just, counting and obsessing and working out all of the time. And something you said that's really motivating to me right now is we need to prove to you need to prove to yourself that you can be healthy, you can be mindful, you can track to reset yourself and be great. Not be miserable, not be anorexic, enjoy life, have great relationships. And so going through the process and proving to myself that I can make this agreement that I'm going to lose the excess weight I don't need and have fun doing it, or at least not go crazy doing it.
Right. But dieting is not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Dieting is the process of losing body fat or changing your body, and it needs to be temporary. So like I remind Hanna all the time, remember, this is not life. This is not real life. This is fat loss. It's completely different, and it's going to be done soon. And like you will not be thinking about it because that'll be the goal. You need to let go.
Yeah. Now you summarize.
Like if you miss a piece of this, it doesn't work. So making sense is SCNTS. Like just for memory, making sense, which is self-confidence, nutrition, training, and sustainability. So we use those as categories of like topics of what we do.
It is making sense. Yes. I love that you put it that way. Okay, Griffin. So people want to make sense of their health and fitness. How can they stay connected with you, learn more about what you do, see all of the mind-blowing content that you put out? Where should they go?
Definitely Instagram, 100%. You'll see a lot of content and writing on there. Please go there, check me out. It's just at Griffin H. Burke on Instagram.
Griffin H. Burke on Instagram. Go connect. Yeah, thanks everyone. We'll be back next week with more information to help make your dream life your real life. And so I don't know if that made sense, but
that makes sense. And it's a very much a gray area. So if someone is not comfortable in their body, the answer is not just, so actually, wait, before I say that, what you were alluding to is that,
I do. I muted myself instead of stopping. Okay, cool.
This is like my favorite color.
All right, and that's a wrap for our Dream Life is Real Life show today. Thank you for hanging out with me, Hanna Hermanson, and our inspiring community here. Be sure to visit dreamlifeisreallife.com/show to get all of the resources and more that we talked about today so that you can keep building, scaling, and enjoying your dream life and business. Until next time.